Galileans murdered by Pilate may have gotten off easy in public opinion. After all, Roman rule was not popular. It's easy, though, to imagine the tongue-wagging that went on in Jerusalem when the Tower of Siloam collapsed. Well, those 18 must have been big sinners. It was God's punishment, sure enough. The same sort of talk goes on today. Some people claim to have a clear idea of God's will. They have an advantage, perhaps, because they've discovered that God thinks just as they do. I am certain that God's thoughts are not my thoughts, nor are God's ways my ways. So I'm less certain of what God thinks in specific situations. I cannot agree that God devises cruel punishments for people so beloved as to be worth the crucifixion of Jesus. If we could be forgiven nailing him to the cross, what sin is beyond forgiveness? Jesus says there is only one, the refusal to accept forgiveness. Not AIDS, nor the rain that ruins a picnic, nor any other tragedy or mishap, whether big or small, is God's torturing us. However, I agree on one point with people who are sure they see God's will in the misfortunes that befall others, or even themselves. They believe that God is involved in the matter. They're right. But what is the nature of that involvement? What could God be doing besides causing the situations from which we suffer? We are getting ready for our Good Friday commemoration of what God does with suffering. God undergoes it. The mystery of the cross of Christ is that God suffers. The suffering of Jesus was not deserved. Legally, morally, and in every way, Jesus was innocent. Jesus suffered because there is something about God's relationship with us that entails the suffering of God. We feel farthest from God, and God seems farthest from us when we suffer. The pain may be physical, as in injury or illness. It may be psychological, as in depression or rejection. It may be spiritual, as when we feel sinful, or that God is far off. Whatever the source or sources, we feel that God has abandoned us. That is, then, when we most feel the need for God, and God is there. Not that God takes the pain away. That is not the message of the cross. Jesus was not removed from the cross until he was dead. He did not rise to new life until he had suffered fully. God is with us in our pain, doing what anyone who loves us does when we are in pain. God suffers with us. Some religions may talk of the power of God. Christians should proclaim the pain of God, an infinite pain that comes of infinite love. Much of God's pain, and our own, is caused by us. The things we do to one another, the things we do to ourselves, everything that goes against the will of God breaks God's heart because it goes against our own good. We call it sin. We are celebrating Lent, the season of repentance. We reflect upon our sinfulness and do what we can with God's help to change our lives. Rather than punishing us, God gives us chance after chance to stop causing divine and human suffering. That is the point of the parable of the fig tree. That does not mean that we can postpone our conversion. Let us not cause God who loves us and whom we love any more pain.